G'day and welcome to chapter 37 of my RX323 resto videos. And in this chapter, I'm down to the last 5% of things I need to do on the car. I keep on finding little things, which is always quite exciting. So the first thing I tackle in this is heat management of the car. Rotors are typically very hot and very noisy, and a lot of vibration comes from the engine, so you'll see how I tackle that. The next thing I do is a tailgate on the car. The strut on that is absolutely cactus. It doesn't hold up anything, and you can't buy them anymore. They've got quite special ends on it, so you'll see how I get around that. The indicator cancelling ring is broken on that, so I get a new one for that. A new bonnet cable as well, replace that as well, and also the earth cable from the battery to the chassis. So this is another cable I need to get sorted as well. So I hope you enjoy it. One of the most important things in a car you must manage is heat. Engines produce a lot of heat. You don't want that coming into the cabin and making the drive uncomfortable. So that's one of the things I want to tackle now. So I'm going to focus on two areas of the car. One is the interior of the car. I'm going to get some matting for that, some of the butyl matting, which is some people call it, you can get the Dynamat, all different types of brands you can get. So I'm going to strip out the interior, pull out the seats, pull out the carpets, and get that and lay it down. So this is what it looks like with the interior out of the car. And this is what it looks like now with the matting in. Now a little time lapse of doing the boot and underneath the rear seat. Just a tip when you're laying this matting, it's really, it's sticky. It's got the nice backing on it, and you pull that off and you roll it on inside the car. But also the top layer is like an aluminium foil and it cuts your hands to shreds. So just be careful when you do it if you do that. Another area I wanted to tackle was the exhaust. The exhaust runs really close to the fuel tank, so I needed just to put a bit of protection. I'm not sure I'm going to need it, but I'll have it there. You can't be too safe when it comes to heating around the exhaust. So I've gone and got this gold heat tape. It's quite expensive, so I'm just going to get some cleaners now, clean off around the fuel tank and apply this and make sure it stays stuck there for good. Alright, so there we have it. I've applied that tape on the fuel tank, so it's just around the exhaust there, so that should just provide a bit of protection if that rear muffler starts to get quite hot. So this is the rear tailgate strut on the car, and as you can see, this is a bit cactus. So I've got a new one. It's a generic one. This is it here, but it hasn't got these brackets on the end. I couldn't find one with these brackets on the end, so it has these little ball ends on them here which go into here, and this bolts into the car. So what I've got to do is try and remove these brackets, install these little ball ends onto the car, and see if we can get this to work to hold the rear tailgate up. Okay, I've just drilled out the ends of the brackets just here on both ends, so I can reuse and bolt those little ball joints to this. There we go, that's off now. It's one end. Alright, so this is the old strut. You can see with the different types of ends there and there, and remember it's cactus. This is the new type, and just with the ball fitting end there and there. Now here's the ball fitting ends. So what we do with this strut is you've got to make sure that this seal here is pointed down so that any gas and oil keep the seal lubricated. So when you click on it, it's got to be in an orientation like that, pointing down. So it's pretty simple. Click that one there. Get rid of the stay. There we have it. Just one important thing about these struts is this strut here is 300 Newton meters. You've got to make sure there is a calculation, and when you're buying these struts, you can generally, they'll give you a calculation how to measure the Newton meter forces required. I actually got a 900 Newton meter strut, and I clicked it in there and I could not even pull this down. It was that tight. So this one's less than half of 300 Newton meters, and as you can see, perfect. So the next job I'm going to do is the cancelling ring in behind the steering wheel here. What the cancelling ring does is when you put your indicators on and you turn the wheel and it turns back, it turns off the indicators. When I've been pulling apart this steering column, I've noticed that it's broken, so I've always wanted to tackle that. So I've got onto Phil's rotaries, and he supplied me this one here. It's actually out of an RX-7, but it looks pretty much identical to the one that's in the car. Only difference is this one's black and the other one's white. I'm not prejudiced, so I don't really care. So I'll stick this in and see how it goes. So the way you do it is you just pop off this cap. And in here is the nut for the steering wheel. First of all, I've disconnected the battery, because if you touch this onto here, it'll set the horn off. So I've disconnected that. Just make sure the steering wheel's straight, so this is all nice and straight before I undo everything. Undo it. Now, top tip with this is don't undo the nut all the way and then give the steering wheel a bit of a pull, I should say, and then it'll come off. Otherwise, it'll come back and hit you in the face. You undo the nut, slide off the steering wheel, and there's the cancelling ring here. So if I just carefully prise this out of here, so there it is. So you can see it's broken right through there. Yeah, that's all greasy. So compared to the new one, so there's the two of them there together. And you see it's got the little pin there, so I just wanted that. So that locates on the back of the steering wheel there to engage there, and those little bumps there is what disconnects your indicators when you turn the corner. So if I carefully pop that in there, I'll just check the orientation. So the orientation of those are straight up and down, so I'll turn it like that. Now if I carefully push that on like that. Beautiful. Now let's put the nut on. Do it up. It's nice and tight. Put my cap back on. There we go. So I test it. Beautiful that way and that way. All good, works well, perfect. Alright, so I just got to reconnect the battery now. Do that nice and tight. Now let's make sure that horn works. So my next job is the bonnet cable. As you can see here, it's busted off the end, so I want to change that out. So I also got a new one of those from Phil's rotaries as well in Queensland, so I'll pop one of those in now. It's pretty straightforward. You just undo, there's a bolt on the back, and that just slips down, and that just pops out like that. Now I'll go under the bonnet, undo the cable. This is the cable that I need to undo, so I just want to be really, really careful because I don't want it to fall down into there, into the bell housing. So I'll just carefully undo that. So this is the new cable that I've got. It's nicely packaged, comes with a new grommet there, and it's also got this part of the pull part of the cable is not broken, and it's actually white as well. So I've just pulled through the cable through the firewall. And I've just popped the grommet onto the end, so now that can go down into here onto the firewall. Alright, so I just rerouted that now back through the clip without dropping it, and onto the other end of the bonnet thing, which pulls on there, through there into the cabin. So I've just done the back of the nut up, nice and tight, and that's it. She's all installed and ready to go. So the car's electrical system on it, everything from the power side through to the fuse boxes and all that sort of stuff is all fused and safe. One thing that's not safe is the way I've got it set up, with power going straight to the starter motor, and then have a cable going straight from the starter motor to the back of the alternator. So the alternator charges back through the starter motor cable and then back through to the battery. So if something happens, if I was in an accident or the starter shorted out or the alternator shorted out really bad, I've got no real protection. So the simplest way to protect the car is actually to fuse the earth. So this is what I've got sorted for it. Okay. So what I've done is I've taken the earth strap off the car, and what I'm going to do is put this inline fuse for the earth. So we both all know that electricity runs around in a circle. So most starter motors, when they're cranking, they draw about 150, maybe 200 amps max. So this is a 200 amp fuse. So this should be safe enough if something goes wrong with the alternator or the starter motor to stop the whole car from shorting out. So I'll fit that up now. Basically all I'm going to do is I'm just going to snip the earth strap, put these squash terminals on here, and which go onto here, and the fuse, which is just in there, so you can see the size of that fuse, will just bolt across there, and then it'll protect the whole circuit from being shorted out. So the earth strap used to come from the top here down to that chrome bolt there. So now what I've done, I've run the lead, I've cut it, heat shrinked it, put some terminals on there. That's the 200 amp fuse there, and now it loops around and goes to the body. So I've done a really good job of cleaning underneath that earth point there. I spent a lot of time cleaning it, and I've tapped out the hole again so the thread's all nice and fresh, and then just touched up the paint around it so it's all nice and you can't see where the scratch marks are from cleaning up the earth. So there it is. So that's the fuse just in there, the 200 amp fuse. So I've made this lead long enough so if something happens and this was to trip, I can just unbolt it and join it back up. So I can just unbolt from there to there and bolt that straight down to there. So yeah, I'll be able to keep the car going. Well, that's it for this chapter. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Now in the next chapter, as promised in the last video, I start to get some of the engineering sorted. So here's a little sneak peek at some of the things I need to do with that. So I'm at a weighbridge now, so you can see here. So I hope you have a nice Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I'll see you in 2022. Thanks for watching. Bye now.